So, okay, can someone tell me what the word schema means? Someone. Okay, so so a schema is the same as a role. Where do you get your roles from? Look at schemas twice. Must be important. I'm going to write this word here as a script. So, sorry, pardon me. That'll work. Okay, so now, I wrote the word script up here. Why is that one chair sitting way in front of everybody else weird? It's outside of the parameters that we typically expect. So it's funny that we all follow scripts. Good morning. Okay, when you follow a script, what does it give you? Okay, is anybody thespian in here? Not means dating the same sex, but a theater person? Sorry, bad humor. Okay. Does anybody ever do theater in here? Come on, we're all the nerds. They're memorizing Holy Grail. That's what they're doing. Okay. But when you have a script, when you're playing a role, okay, so anybody ever sees the movie with Leonardo DiCaprio called The Aviator? Yeah. Okay. Howard Hughes had a disorder called obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD. And OCD allowed him to do stuff that normal people don't. Has anybody watched Mythbusters in here? There's a really great TED Talk with, what's the tall guy with the glasses? Not Jamie, but the other one. Adam Savage. Okay? Adam has OCD. He designs sets. He like in one of the Star Wars movies, he made the set out of miniatures so they could film it over miniatures, and he made it down to obsessive, annoying detail. But that allows him to, because he's so obsessive compulsive about things, he does a really, really, really good job. However, it causes major trauma in the rest of his life because he's so hypervigilant on doing things. Anyway, so in order for Leonardo DiCaprio, regardless of whether you like him or not, he is a really good actor. Why is he a really good actor? He plays the part really well. No matter what he's playing, he embraces the part. There's another one who's slightly nuts in his real life, we think. We don't know, because we don't know what his real life is. Johnny Depp. When Johnny Depp gets into character, he is that character. Has anybody seen the Willy Wonka? It's just the whole character of Willy Wonka is just so creepy the entire time. Is it spot on Willy Wonka the entire time? If you watch the old one, my kids and I did this last winter. We watched the old Willy Wonka and then the new one, the old Charlie and the Chocolate Factory new one. Gene Wilder's way creepier. then, oh, just, ew. Oh, wow, nice guy. Okay, so, but when those really good actors play a script, they become the character. People like my wonderful friends on the TV show Friends. What did the characters in the show become? Not the original characters that they started as. They actually became the actors that were playing them. So if you watch the old TV show Friends, watch the first season. They're actually, each character is made after a different personality disorder. When we talk about personality disorders, we'll go through the cast of Friends, and you can see Phoebe is schizotypal, Joey is dependent personality, Ross is histrionic, Mana is OCD personality. And they run through all they were characterized as personality disorders. That's why it's funny. Okay, but at the end of the show, what is everybody? They're their actual real self. What's his name? Ross is whatever Ross is in real life. Think about the characters that, what's his name? I don't even know. Michael Schumer? No. David Schumer. Okay. What is it? Describe Melman, the giraffe. Madagascar. He's Ross. So as opposed to playing a character, David Schwimmer always just plays David Schwimmer. No matter what he's doing, what does he play? Himself. We're going to the dying spot now. You've got the dying spot. So anyway, so when the difference when you play a role, when you follow a script, are you really being yourself? Always yes and no. So we talk about this. We talk about this with. Let's see. Do I have it up here? Oops, sorry about that. I don't know if I put this up here, but this is the most important part. Oh, it is down here. But roll, yeah. We talked a lot about attribution theory. Remember we talked, with attribution theory, we talked about the situational attribution. In other words, you're acting the way you're acting because of the environment that you're in. Good morning. And then there's also what we call dispositional attribution. You're acting that way because you actually are that way. So when we talk about these roles and scripts, it's always both. It's always both. You are always a part of your environment around you. What percent of us naturally just conform to the environment? 8, 9, whatever it takes. If you're an iCarly fan, that's funny. What percentage of you automatically conform? Almost everybody's here, so I can give you some more information. But, oh, come on. So, evidently, some of you not watched this video. You haven't. Okay, so most of you are here now, so I can show you this. On Canvas, oops, that was actually the assignment. Oh well. On Canvas, I sent out an email. Okay, let's see. This is your section. And this is, I sent out 2 emails actually. I sent out one last night because I was supposed to send it out last week and I forgot. The quick survey, that was basically, we're trying to figure out what, as opposed to figuring out classes based on what's best for our schedules, we're trying to figure out classes based on your schedule. Haha, weird. That's not good. Who's going to pick my kids up from school? But, so Marissa is our other full-time psych person now, and she's like, well, why don't we just see what the students want? I'm like, well, that's radical. Really good idea, actually, but not important. Okay, but this one right here. Hi, please be careful and do not exhibit risky shifts in your group behavior tonight. I sent that out on Halloween. Okay, we're getting ready for the next assessment. I need you to watch these videos and answer questions at the bottom of the assignment. Can I do it? No, that's, okay. Students who missed the group activity, we didn't have any concentration in your stage. If you did not turn it in, please continue with the schedule. That's okay. You have plenty of time because I actually wanted you to have it done before the assessment, which is Thursday. And so if you click on the assignment, there's a bunch of videos. I would suggest watching these. Each of the questions on the assessment comes from each one of these videos. The questions come from a different video. Okay, and so in order for you to practice and study, there's a bunch of videos. Yeah. And there's some of them are, and all these words right here that I have up on the other screen, these are the actual words. Who knew there's not many words? Okay. So, okay. Outside. Okay. So each one of these words is one of the key terms for this unit. They all have the same basic idea: social influences on your behavior. It's the same thing. We say it 1,000 different ways in this unit. It's called social psychology because it's not real. How come it's not real? Like behaviorism. Oh. It comes down to perspective. So when you say, well, how do you decide which script or which role to play? It depends. It depends on the environment, but it also depends on the individual. This is why, as a hard scientist person, I get really frustrated with social psychology. It's really amazing when you start looking at social psychology and when you start studying the way that we behave in groups. Okay, so I'm going to go back, and if you haven't watched the video yet, you can watch it, but 66% of people conform. 66% of people conform automatically, without question. Thank you. Why? Yeah. Giant exam. I don't know if it's the same thing. You're filling out bubbles, reading questions. What do you call that? Yeah, but isn't it a test by yourself and you're scared? Yeah. So you're not. You're working together. There's actually a video of Daily Double that goes along with it, which is very exciting. A new video you haven't watched yet, you have to apply terms to. We'll see how that goes. Okay. 66% of you conform. When you don't conform, it causes anxiety. We call it outgrouping. When you get outgrouped, one of my students in my morning class did not work with a group because he didn't feel comfortable asking a group to work with. Okay? And so when you get outgrouped, if you're sitting in the back corner where he sits in my class because he doesn't feel like doesn't feel like he fits in, so he's sitting here by himself, and everybody jumping into groups and starts working, and he's like, yeah. How come he didn't jump in and start working? Okay, so you just fundamentally attribution error him. He doesn't like working in groups. You assumed it's a personal choice. Maybe it could be anxiety. Anxiety. So this is embarrassing, but I think it's a very important part that there's a difference between introvert and extrovert. We'll talk about those actually next week. Okay? Introverts and extroverts are different personality types. We'll talk about those next week. But when there's also a difference between social anxiety and introvert-extrovert. Okay, so social anxiety. I had a lot of social anxiety. One of the main reasons is I was never taught, when I was a kid, how to play the game. So we're going to go outside and play a game today and teach you how to play the game and find out about the rules of the game. But when I was a kid, I never was taught how to play the game. That is called this, availability heuristic. A lot of kids in my generation were called latchkey kids. Okay? A lot of kids in my age were called latchkey kids. A latchkey kid is you have a lanyard around your neck with a key on it. I had a ribbon. And when I got out of school, I put the ribbon on my neck, and the bus let me off in front of my house. Follow the rules. Good. Roll. What? That's better. Hold on. I like arrows for fun. Okay. So now, as a latchkey kid, where did I learn about how I was supposed to act in public? At school, because I was at school most of the day. And when I got home, my mom would get home from school, when she was a teacher, she would get home from school around 5 or 6 every night. My stepdad would get home from work around 7 o'clock every night. My brother would, who knows where he was. And so for most of my childhood, I was just by myself. So my neighbors called me the feral child because I was always out riding my bike or doing something or playing in the woods. I loved reading old Tolkien stuff. And so I had like a machete and I pretended I was like a soldier going through the woods, chopping tree branches down, making paths, which eventually became mountain bike trails when I got older. But that's not important. But what's funny is that when I got to college, by the way, how was my dating in high school these days? None. If I go back and look at my history in my head, I realize, man, I missed a lot of opportunities to date when I was in high school. But how come I didn't take said opportunities? I had no freaking clue. No clue. When I got to college, it's like, woohoo! All of a sudden I'm like, whoa, how do I date people? How do you find out? You watch people around you. At San Diego State, that's not a good choice. And so going through most of I never had a serious girlfriend until my first year of graduate school. I was 23. I had my first long-term serious girlfriend. And she basically trained me how to be housebroken. Yeah, so you don't pee on the rug. Metaphor, not literal. Sort of. Moving on. So basically taught me how to put gel in my hair. Never wore my hair. I used to just shave my head because it was a pain in the ass to have hair. Yeah, but for some reason I didn't get dates. Weird. 280 pounds and shaved head. I don't understand why. Anyway, moving on. So, but eventually, the training that my first girlfriend gave me that allowed me to stick with my wife. We've been together for 21 years. My second girlfriend. Yay! Yeah. Okay. So that's one thing sucks. Okay, moving on. So 21 years later, we're still happily married-ish because I still need kids and I need to be houseworking more. I would see that. Okay, so now, but again, for me as a kid, I didn't know the rules because no one bothered to teach them to me. And I watch a lot of cartoons, but they don't really teach you many rules except you can fall off a cliff and survive. Like funny joke? Okay. So, but are there rules that you have to follow in life? Where do you learn them? Okay, we can say society. We learn from society's rule. But looking at society, I want to put this attribution theory back up here again. We're going to go outside and play a game here in just a minute. Okay? I'm going to write the word situational here and dispositional here. Okay, so what determines whether you see something as situational or dispositional? What determines whether you decide if it's the environment or the person that's causing the problem? Google? I like that. Sorry. I don't know why. I know why I'm zoomed in more than I. Because I'm a trained professional. The colors show up better on the gray background. I hate the gray background, but the colors show up better. Okay. Situational or dispositional is perspective. So what we're going to do is we're going to go outside and play a game. It's a little bit cold, so we're going to go up your ankle sweater so we can go do this. We're going to go up on the road up here above the class. Okay? So everybody head out there. I can lock the door if you want, so you can leave your stuff here and not worry about it getting rifled through. And any poor student that's late is just going to be confused. I'm going to turn the recording off because that makes a very, very boring recording of me walking away from the computer. All right. When we when you think about social perspective, from the people at the top, what did it look like that the people at the bottom were doing? Could you really tell a difference between any of the individuals down at the bottom? No. And then I went and rescued somebody. Where's the blue? I love that color blue. It's like my favorite color. That's why I rescued her. Wear a nice color. Okay, but when I rescued her, what did it do to everybody else? Moved them down. Did anybody step over a line when I moved them down? So what are the lines right here? Well, what's different about the groups? So it's the how far they go with each unit of work. Okay, so in our society, we happen to have these folks up here. And I'm going to write this two-step up here. That when I go to work, I make somewhere between $50 and $60 an hour when I go to work. And plus I get benefits on top of that, so I make quite a bit of money per hour. When I was in college, I made $6 an hour when I was a dishwasher. So a full day of dishwashing is 1 hour of my job here. Ouch. I know, when you start thinking of it in perspective, you're like, oh. And so if I'm, quote, working really hard, putting a new TV in my office, sorry. But when people say, well, you shouldn't get paid so much for what your job is. But my brain, my perspective says, well, I've worked really hard to get here. Did I start out making very low wages? Yes. And I worked my way all the way through the different classes and the different steps. I'm not a two-stepper. So what does a step back represent? What does a step back represent? Most Americans cannot afford a $400 bill. So if you, like, last 2 weeks ago when a van broke, okay, it cost me $400 to get it fixed. And another $400 to get the other side fixed, because the one broke and then the other one was getting ready to break, so I just paid to get it fixed right away. So we ended up spending, I think, a total of $1,100 or something on the van a couple weeks ago. On a used car that's not fun to drive. Anyway, so still a little bitter about it. But did it really set us back much? No, because even though we're about here in our socioeconomic status, if I have to take a step back, that's only technically 2 or 3 weeks of work for me to get back to where I was before, after that one step. Most Americans can't handle a $400 bill. You get an extra $400 added to your month. Most Americans can't pay it. What happens when you get down to the bottom? What happens when you hit the curb? What's behind you? The cliff. Okay? And when you get down at the bottom, you can't back up anymore. So you have a $400 bill and you're like... So what happens with your ability to go up the social ladder? To step up toward the top people? What do you keep doing? Stepping away. If you live in San Diego and you don't make a lot of money, every time you go to work, what are you doing? You're stepping away from moving up the social ladder. And it really sucks because, and that's why I really like, I can't remember his name, but the slide that was cheating was on his phone. Why was he cheating? No, it's perfect. What is he doing? Aside from I made the joke, oh, he's cheating on his taxes. So he said, I can only take one step. Every class, someone has tried to cheat a little bit. 2 students from the other class that were taking sideways steps. So, okay, that was awesome. It was a good bump. Okay, so it was funny because why are people tempted to cheat if you're going the wrong direction? It's not that they don't want to do the outcome, is that they don't see an out following the rules. You don't see an out following the rules, yeah. Now, the word cheating is a little bit vague. We use the word as someone breaking the rules, thinking outside of the box. But if you're up at the top, do you think you're working hard to get where you are? Yes, because you're doing the same amount of work. The difference is once you get to the top, each unit of work gets you so much more. I can give you an example from we have some friends that benefited from the B-side lending scam. Back in the early O's, my buddy Nick and a bunch of his friends, they work in finance. He's got a degree in finance. He played volleyball over in Europe for a couple years. He came back. He knew a bunch of folks that knew a bunch of folks. And all of a sudden, he worked for Countrywide Lending. And he was in charge of the B-side lending. B-side lending is, hey, you can't afford a house, so we'll give you a house, and you'd have no money down. Your payments will be $500 a month for the first 5 years, and then they go up to $2,000 a month. But don't worry, you'll be able to refi. Yeah, it didn't work at all. It actually caused the stock market crash in 2008. Oops. So who did the stock market crash hurt? Lower class. These folks. These folks lost their houses. These folks lost their credit. These folks lost any retirement that they had. Did it hurt these folks? Not as much, because most of them didn't have the B-side loan. Most of them didn't go that route because they could afford a house fine. They were fine. One of our Trump appointees, I can't remember who, made a fortune buying foreclosed houses, who happened to be in charge of one of the banks that was oversighting these loans. So you foreclose on a bunch of houses, you buy the houses at half price, you wait 10 years. Is the housing market back up now? Yeah. Two-bedroom, a friend of ours, a real estate agent, two-bedroom, one bath in La Mesa just sold for $635. Not that special. We're like, woohoo! We can refinance and pay for my daughter's college. Okay, because what are the two-steppers? How do they pay for their daughter's college? They save money. Or sell a house that they have. Our friend Matt and Matina, they're a really good example of the quote American dream. She is an interior designer. He was going through law school. She paid for his law school by going through interior design, doing fancy, she's really good at it. Matt and Matina. And as soon as he got a work at a law firm, she quit. She started having babies. They moved from our neighborhood to Old La Mesa, bought this really cool old house in La Mesa. Like really neat, built like 1910 or something. So cool. And then they rent the place in our neighborhood because they bought it in 1998, 1999. Their mortgage is $1,500 a month. They rent it for $2,200 a month. What do they get every month? $1,000 for renting the house. They paid off the house now because they made all the extra payments went into the principal, the mortgage, paid off the house. And now, $2,200 a month just for having the house, plus whatever maintenance it costs. Which isn't much on a well-built house. So their house in La Mesa, they're renting. They just bought a house in Mount Hewitt. So now they own 3 houses. Well, because they have the resources to, if the water heater blows up, what can they do? That's it. It's a new one. Yeah, and so you start realizing, so what happens is it's the perspective. And this is why one of the things, I grew up very poor. We didn't have a lot of money growing up. I mean, I remember Christmas, we got like 8 toys. Yeah! It was awesome. I always go back to that, what's that movie with Jennifer Aniston where he gets the kid like an Xbox and the other guy, like the other dad gets the kid a flashlight. The kid jumps out of the window naked. 3 Christmases or something. Yeah, it's just like, but it's, yeah, I mean the flashlight, the kid would be awesome because their lights are really all day. Okay. My cousin smoking and blowing the smoke and then playing with the lights. Good time. Okay, but what's funny is that is it easy for me to move up the social ladder? Yes, because we talked about this before, but white privilege. All right, okay, let's see what the computer thinks it is. I don't even know what that means. Okay, so with because the American dream is biased toward white people. This is like, there's a bunch of research about this, is that if you are African American and you work your way up the social ladder, where do your kids start the social ladder? They start one step lower than the parents do. For white people, where are my kids starting the social ladder? The same place where I get to. Fair or not fair? Totally not fair. If you're Latinx, every generation seems to keep moving up, but a lot of people with Latinx, they seem to move up the ladder slower. They seem to move up the ladder slower. Why? So let's look at perspective. If you're up at the top and you look down, those people are lazy. Why do you say that they're lazy? Because they're not, they're not trying. That is a fundamental attribution error. When you say that, oh, that person's not trying, I hear this a lot, especially from some of my friends who are more conservative. Why don't those people begging on the streets just go get a job? Well, if you think about, I mean, you work in my neighborhood. There's lots of homeless people there, and I talk to a lot of them. Because I'm stopping getting gas at 7-Eleven right across from where he works, and I know I shouldn't get gas there, but it's just the closest place to my house to get gas in. Yeah. And that 7-Eleven, there's people shot in our parking lot at that 7-Eleven. There was a big police shootout right behind. Yeah. Okay. So you hear the pop, pop. Then you wait. Helicopter. Yeah, it's gone. Wait, pop, 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 pop. Wait. No, some sort of holiday. Okay. Okay, it's living in the hood. But I make that joke, but it's like, so we have some friends that are African American, like, they're like, dude, you guys live in like the hood. I'm like, no, it's fine. It's no big deal. Anyway, but they live over in the Del Cerro side. They're the rich people. We're not. Okay. But it's funny to make that joke, but it is. There are some very rough elements in our neighborhood. There's a big, if you go right behind 7-Eleven, there's an alley, and that's where they're distributing lots of drugs. If you walk by there occasionally, whenever the guy's sitting out vaping on the porch, there's a line of cars going through this alley suspiciously. And, I mean, it's like, we told the police about it, and they said, yeah, but we can't catch anybody doing stuff because they have spotters looking for the police cars. So when the police car shows up, everybody has disappeared by that point. But they don't care if there's an old guy walking a fluffy dog walking by. Right. Okay. If I pull up on Google Earth, we'll find it. Anyway, but, so, the idea of this understanding and recognizing the fact that there is a white privilege in our society, how does that help? You said the word equity. E-Q-U-I-T-Y. Equity is balance. And that's so, as I can't just go and rescue people. And that's actually something that a lot of white people do. They call it white saviorism. I'm going to become a white savior. I'm going to go free these poor, underprivileged people from their slums. That's what caused colonization of Africa. That's what caused colonialism. That's what caused us killing most of the Native Americans. Us being my people, sorry about that. Because it is that equity. Captain Cook in the Pacific Islands. he did not help Pacific Islanders very much. All he did was tried to make them more Western European. And the same thing, Columbus in South America. Not a hero at all. But at the same time, is that by assuming that our way of doing things is the right way of doing things, that causes the differences between the ethnicities. So what's interesting to me in California is we see a much different version of the United States than other parts of the United States. We're extremely biased here. Things are actually very good in California compared to other places. But so I want to look about this really quickly. So what do we do about this? What can we do about this? I could play some dead Kennedys, but one of the ideas is kill the poor. They just get in the way, they don't do anything. Oh, kill the rich people, sure, now who's going to give you a job? Poor people. Welcome to capitalism, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so this is the slowly pushed into socialism. But in a capitalist society, does capitalism produce this? Yes. Well, okay, so who owns most of the wealth in our country? No, the top 0.1%. It used to be the 1%ers, but the 1%ers aren't the top money anymore. It's the 0.1%. Okay? Hello. Okay. And so the 0.1% of people are the people who own most of everything. And so what happens to the size of these bars? The bars so that's how I decided where to make the lines in the street, was I have this, in each class I have the same number of rich people, poor people, and the destitute, if you want to call it. But at the same time, so what can we do to provide equity? As a college student, what can you do? Yeah, just quit. There's nothing you can do. Okay. There's a Simpsons episode. He's on the intercom saying, these children will never amount to anything. Why are we even trying? Oh, the intercom's on, sir. Prove me wrong, children. Prove me wrong. What is a good episode? Okay. So what can we do as college students? Why is an education? Why does an education help you move forward? Getting an education is learning how to play the game. Sadly, it's learning how to play the game. In order to go to college, what do you have to do? You have to figure out how to register. You have to figure out how to apply for financial aid. You have to figure out all these stupid bureaucratic rules. And if anybody's, we see all these petitions coming through for the Promise Grant, where there's a small snafu, and it's like if you fill out the application for the Promise Grant, but you haven't signed the little oath that I'm going to be in college for 2 years, and they say, I'm sorry, you don't get the Promise Grant. Some people just go, well, F this, and leave. Saying, I forgot. And you sign it and send the petition in. But what does that teach you to do? Careful, because that's fundamental attribution error. A lot of you are responsible, but you also have lots of other crap in your life. Situational could be also. So it's to pay attention to when things are due. Like I'm in charge of the bills in my house. If my wife became a principal, she said, you're in charge of doing the bills. Terrifying. I have a giant spreadsheet that I keep of everything that's due and when and what and where, because it's so overwhelming for me, because I'm not the best at details. Like how to spell privilege. So why is it dangerous? Have I forgotten to pay a few things here and there? Yeah. But because we have good credit, they just say, excuse me, Mr. Leonard, forgot to pay American Express bill. Oops, sorry. Okay. I haven't got any late fees yet. Woohoo! But it's closed. Okay, so, but the idea is, but learning to play the game. Once I understand how to play the bills game, can I balance the bills and tell my wife not to spend so much money on clothes and see groceries? Yeah. Not even funny. Okay. Holy crap! She doesn't even let me see her Nordstrom card. I just don't even look. Okay. Deep breath. So, but again, it's playing the game. Going to college is learning to play the game. So I've been trying to find, I want to do more research. I want to get some grants to do real research so that you can teach you how to do real research. For those people that want to do real research, it's doing this little silly experiments that we do, like the heart rates and the air squats. Is that real research? No, it's just fun and it's good things for my stats to play with the data. However, I want to be able to write a real grant where we actually get, like the biology got a freaking $6 million grant or something. Yeah. And they've got all sorts of cool stuff. I got all hand-me-down stuff. I want to write a grant. I want to get some cool stuff. And so I'm learning how to play that research game. What is the best way to play the game? Why is college important? Don't say education, because education is ethereal. Representative over here. But that's not going to make you successful. And this is something that they teach my students in the careers class. The psychology careers class, we're going to teach next semester, we're going to alternate it. But there's one really important thing that you do. And it's something that you learn when you go to school, even more if you go to graduate school. Everybody who is working for Trump is someone Trump had business dealings with in the past. How did those guys get the top, all men, how did they get the top jobs in the government? Because they had connections. Does it mean that they're good, fine, upstanding people? No. And the more they turn over the compost pile of our government right now, we start to see some of the shenanigans that is going on. Shenanigans have gone on forever in politics. But if everything's going fine, no one turns over the compost pile to see what the crap's at the bottom of it. But when things are going bad, what do? We dig up whatever we can. And I guarantee presidents in the past have done worse things than Trump. The difference between Trump and what other presidents have done is Trump is proudly stomping it out on Twitter. Versus Nixon and those guys. Johnson was horrible. There's one guy, I remember, I can't talk to, a history teacher, but pretty much drank a fifth of whiskey every day during his presidency. You ever watch Scandal? Yeah, you should watch it all, and then watching Politicals now. It's like, oh, it's not so bad. Okay. So, but it's connection. Playing the game, a lot of it is connection. I have students that come back and say, hey, can you write me a letter of recommendation? If I know who you are, can I write you a letter of recommendation? Yes, my daughter needed help with history. I know the publishers. I got her help with her history. Because I have connections. I'm probably going to there's a non-profit organization that's working on developing mindfulness activities. I was being myself and talking about the cool mindfulness experiment that we did in our stats. She goes, oh, really? Can you share that data with me? Because the nonprofit would love to see actual real data, because the people that are running the nonprofit are a bunch of these yogi idiots that don't know how to do science. I'm a yogi idiot who loves doing science. All of a sudden, those connections are made. But how do I have those connections? My job. I know people. And I'm extrovert, so I talk to everybody. Some people look at me and go, walk away. Especially when I'm wearing my cheddar shirt. But anyway, which I'm wearing tomorrow. I'm wearing Friday. So, we got 15 different color Psych Club shirts that we're going to be giving out on Friday for the Psych Club meetings, if you want to come. Okay. ASC government bottom for you. And they just came in. Okay. But We're going to take a tour of San Diego State. Probably 2 weeks, maybe. I have to talk to my friend Jen, who helps run the tour. Why would we take a tour of San Diego State? Just to connect you to the campus. Just to connect you to some people that work on the campus. Yeah. If you want to transfer, why is it important to know something about campus? It's a big, scary place when you walk into San Diego State campus. Especially when you zigzag around in some of the small little buildings and try to find different classrooms. One of the things fun to do is have a scavenger hunt to try to find a classroom. Because like a lot of the buildings are shaped like L's, and then like the classrooms are on one side of the building, the other side of the building is like an old gym that you never knew was an old gym. But by making connections, it avoids this thing called imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome we talked about is where you feel out of place. You immediately attribute your discomfort to your disposition. I don't belong here. Okay. I know that was a long kind of waggly way of doing this, but when you go to college, it's not the stuff that you learn that's important. It's who you meet and the process. Like, why do I give you a comprehensive final? That's just mean. Why not just sit and we can all hold hands and get an A? Why in my research methods course am I a lot more rigid when I'm grading stuff? Because when they take that next step, if you're not ready, what's going to happen? You're going to fail. And a lot of times when you go to a university, I try not to let people fail my intro class. I will email you, I will bug you. If you don't do well in the second assessment, you're going to get a lot of attention from Weiner. Because I don't want you to fail. I can't save anybody. It's not my job. But what can I do? I'm going to poke you with a stick. We have tutors. They can't save you either, but they can help. And the job, I have a couple of students that have been really struggling in making it to class. But so they email me. And that's why I'm recording class today, because they've emailed me and said, hey, I can't make it, but I want to do well in the assessment. So I'm recording my class. And I'll post it up on Canvas. Okay? Wow, that was like late but early. That was awesome. Not for the other girls. She's in my next class. She's usually late. Now she's like 15 minutes early. Yes. What if it was a time change? Because that would fit if she was half an hour late, which would be great. But your class starts at 9:30, so she'd be technically showing up at 10, so which would be she's on time for right now. Okay. Yeah, like I'm him. Okay. So why look at all these words? What do all of these words have? What do they all relate to in common? Racism. Racism comes from when you are judging somebody based on the way that they look. Sexism, ageism, they're all the same basic thing. Our society is sadly based on racism. They just arrested some guy in Colorado for trying to blow up a synagogue. And the FBI was going around looking at these white supremacist websites and found this guy ranting, say he's going to blow up a synagogue to let the Jewish people know that they're not welcome in our country. And so the FBI said, hey, I happen to make bombs. You want some bombs? The guy said, yeah, I want bombs. And so they sold him a big box of fake bombs. You can make your own bombs. It's not hard. Anyway, but be careful. But they sold him a bunch of fake bombs. And what was he planning on doing? He was going to go that night and blow up a bunch of stuff. And so they waited outside the synagogue, and he shows up with his fake bombs, and they arrest him. And it's like, so that kind of racism, is that normal or abnormal? Very abnormal. It's not normal. But the kind of racism, the subtle racism that we all experience, the stereotypes that we use. Are stereotypes somewhat true? Yes, but are they true? They're part of the story. They're part of the story. How do you know what the entire truth is? Not just listening to the person, and thank you for not just saying talking to the person. I'm glad you said that. That's awesome. Because a lot of people say talking to someone. No. Listening to someone. Well, empathy. In order to break down stereotypes, you have to get into their perspective. You have to see what their perspective is. And a lot of times, do you stereotype yourself? Yeah, they're called schemas. You stereotype yourself. My friend Amy, she is our woohoo girl in our club, our little friends group. Everybody needs a woohoo girl. And so as soon as they start drinking, all of a sudden someone's woohoo! It's just, yeah. And Amy is always funny because she is very, very blonde. I have a picture of her. She went to Patrick Henry. I have a picture of her from Patrick Henry, and she's got really, really curly hair, and she's got this giant fro of bright blonde hair. She's the one of our friends that runs out of gas all the time. Is it due to her blondness? But does she blame it on her blondness? Why blame it on her blondness? And she is relatively absent-minded and blonde. Our friend Chris is ridiculously absent-minded. She is not blonde. Her parents are from Korea and Germany. She's a Korean German. Not blonde at all. She's way flightier than Amy. Did we comment on her brunetteness? No, because it doesn't fit the stereotype. You remember things that fit the stereotype. You assume that things that don't fit the stereotype are abnormal. Things that fit the stereotype, you go, aha, see? Things that don't, rainbow dash. Sorry. You're tired. Okay. My daughter had a big set of My Little Ponies, and she found my wife's set of My Little Ponies. Sorry. Okay. I had to play with My Little Pony quite a bit. Okay. There's no boy in My Little Pony. There is? You never see any junk hanging down. If you go to a real horse, there's stuff hanging. Hi. Are you doing students today? Okay. Oh, fine. So let me stop the recording so you don't